we finally have Choose Your Legends 8, and this is going to be my easy breakdown of it. So we have got Brave Female Robin in the same outfit as Male Robin from last year, but at least she is a colorless mage this time, so she is going to be having Exalt's Tactics as her preferred weapon. This gives her minus in special cooldown, and if any kind of rally or movement assist skill is used by the unit, or if there's no Ice Divine Vein active, then it is going to be applying Divine Vein Ice Terrain to spaces and 2 spaces away from the target after the movement. And this is going to be not including the spaces that are occupied by the foes, because you cannot make an ice on them and just encase them in that ice. So this is going to be adding the obstruction to the enemy team, because the Divine Vein Ice Terrain is going to be an impassable terrain for the foes, and it is going to be acting like a 1 HP destructible wall. So this is going to be pretty annoying in Aether Raid's defense, and they do mention that at sort of the enemy phase in Aether Raids, it is going to be activating. So this is going to be pretty obnoxious on certain maps, especially the desert map, and this could also be used in summoner duels, and again, it is going to be time consuming to just break the ice and then get to your opponents. Of course, there's a lot of warping, there is Emblem Celica, so naturally you can get past this kind of Divine Vein Ice tile, but still nonetheless, this is going to be a really unique thing that she's able to give out to your team. And then for her own combat, she's able to get -5 debuff to the foe's attack speed and resistance, depending on number of allies in 3 rows and 3 columns centered on her, times 3 and then added by 5. So at max, this could be 14, and then she has got null penalties to all of her stats, so she's not going to be getting phased by any kind of debuffs herself. And she also has Null Guard in the combat, and whenever her special triggers, she gets the full damage reduction piercing. And her special is going to be triggering quite a lot with her Slotsy skill. And overall, she's going to be standing out as the only user of Ice Terrain right now. Maybe in the future we get an Ice Stripe banner or more units with the Ice Terrain, similar to how a lot more units got the Stone Terrain of Brave Female Corrin. But at least now, this is going to be a pretty novel concept, and this can be an annoying thing to face in Aether Raids, especially if you're using a Gale Force team, and it is a Divine Vein, so if you have the Stone Terrain or the Flame Terrain active, then it is going to be just replacing the Ice Terrain. So you don't necessarily have to attack the ice, but still, for setting up that terrain that is going to be overriding Ice Terrain, you'll still have to use an action. So this is going to be interesting to say the least, and even if this does not stay unique in the future, at least like Female Robin has got the other support that she can do with her Slot B skill, which is still going to be there, and she's going to be able to function as a fantastic support unit. And this is why having Kanto on any kind of Aether Raid's defense unit is going to be a bit annoying, because they're going to be breaking the ice and then Kantoing the farthest, which is not the best when you're trying to overwhelm the enemy. And she does come with Flare as the special, so this can give her the healing, and this is, as it is, the main special for the infantry mages, so at least you don't have to fodder Brave Sorin. And she also has attack speed finish 4 to give her the healing and some true damage, and then she has got her exclusive skill and according to plan. So at sort of turn, it is going to be checking for her HP, and she's going to be able to give herself and the allies in 2 spaces the +6 attack and speed buff and the Kanto 1 status. She doesn't really give out the resistance buff, which we saw in the FEH channel. It was Valentine Lissa giving that out, but yeah, she mainly gives out the Kanto support, which is pretty good for the positioning. Not the most insane support though, but Hush Spectrum and Panic is definitely amazing as support, and she's going to be inflicting the closest foes and any kind of foe in 2 spaces of them. So the range of this is pretty huge, and having Hush Spectrum is going to be really helpful for many of your tanks, because it is essentially Scowl effect. And we have seen that before on young Female Robin, and here she can inflict multiple foes with Hush Spectrum without using her assist. So that seems really solid for the support, and that's why I feel like even if we get another unit who can set up more ice terrain, at least she's going to be having this unique thing with Hush Spectrum. And then for her own combat, she's able to inflict -5 attack speed and resistance debuff on the foe, and she also gets true damage up to 25, and she also gets flat damage reduction on foes' first attacks up to 15, and the X is going to be the number of bonus status active on her, and also the number of penalty status active on the foe. So she gives herself the Kanto 1 status and inflicts the Hush Spectrum and Panic status on the enemies. So right from the get-go, she's going to be having those 3 effects, and you can run her with a lot of other units who can have the penalty status on the enemy or give you the bonus status, and this is going to be scaling off well for her nuking potential because the true damage is quite a lot, and nowadays it's kind of needed with a lot of the flat damage reduction that we have got, especially against Emblem Ike. And she also has a new skill in Creation Pulse, so this is likely going to be infantry locked, and this skill only works if there's any kind of penalty active on the foe. And she does debuff the foe for the Hush Spectrum and Panic, so it does work out, but against Freyr and attuned Micaiah, this could be a bit troublesome. So it gives you +3 attack and speed in the combat, and you also get special jump before your first attack, and this caps out at 2. So depending on the number of penalty active on the enemy, it is going to be giving you the special jumping, and as it is, she has the 2 negative status effects on the enemies. So it's pretty easy to get the 2 special jumping with this unless the enemy has got some kind of cleansing, and this way she's able to trigger Flare easily, and even if she doesn't get the full special jumping, she still has Null Guard to trigger Flare easily. So she does have a failsafe being a tactician, and this skill is going to be good for many of the tanks for bypassing the scowl effect because special jumping is going to be countering that in a way. So Emblem Ike actually kind of likes this skill because of its special jumping. It's kind of the same reason why you run him with Rally Spectrum, to not get scowled by the enemies. So Creation Pulse is going to be a pretty nice lots of skill for him, but Breath of Life is just insane. So I'm not sure if Emblem Ikes are going to be replacing that just yet with Creation Pulse, but still this is going to be having applications. Overall, I see that Brave Female Robin is going to be useful in pretty much every single game mode, in either its offense, either its defense, definitely in Summoner Duels, and even for the casual content, she's going to be pretty amazing, and you could have a lot of fun with her ice effect that she's able to have. And right now it is going to be pretty unique, but even Hush Spectrum is good for the tanking, and the ice terrain does help you for hit and run. As you can see, you can pretty much block off the enemy team and then continue from there. And we have got Brave Felix as a Mortal Savant, and there's definitely 11 sword in this Choose Your Legends 8, but not on the unit you think. He's a sword infantry unit, and he's the swordiest of sword infantries, so pretty much everyone expected. And as you can see, he has got multiple actions, so if you missed on Winter Edelgard, then you definitely need to get this unit. So he has got new 11 sword. I guess Gangrel has got the old one, and this does give you -2 special cooldown. So this is a better slaying effect, but keep in mind that your max special cooldown value cannot be reduced below 1. So this is actually going to be working out with his Gust, and also with Gale Force if you decide to run that, and even with AoE specials, this is going to be an amazing thing. So Felix just has an easier time using those high cooldown specials because of having -2 special cooldown in his weapon, and you can obviously use Emblem Marth and bring it down further, and because he's an infantry unit, it's pretty easy to pulse him down. And then he has got distant counter built in this weapon, and also Hexblade, so he can get the adaptive damage, and then depending on the foe's HP or depending on the allies adjacent to him, he can get Omni plus 13 basically. He gets +5 to all of his stats, and then he gets the extra stats based on 15% of his speed, and the visible speed is used for it. So you can give him any kind of visible speed buff, and just like Female Robin, he also has Null Guard, which seems to be the theme of this Truth or Legends, and then he also has 50% damage reduction piercing. So not depending on the specials to get the damage reduction piercing is pretty nice, so at least he doesn't have to run something like No Quarter, and you could just try and use him as an initiator with the craziness that is his slot B skill. So Attack Speed XL is a pretty good skill for him for getting the flat damage reduction in the player phase, and it also gives you the damage reduction in the enemy phase if the enemy triggers their special. And Gust is a new special that we have seen on Attuned Erica. I've gone over it and made a full separate video about it. So Gust is going to be giving you that unpierceable damage reduction, but this is probably not the special that you're going to be seeing him running a lot of the times. And he has got Lone Wolf as his slot B skill. It has got Phantom Speed +7 built in, which I'm not sure why, if that was an error or something like that, because he doesn't have any skills that compare his speed with the enemy speed. So is he just trying to assert dominance on the other gold swords or something? Maybe he has got that for those checks. And if the unit has not used or been a target of an assist skill, then you can get another action. So basically, if you haven't disturbed Felix then he's going to be getting another action, and he inflicts isolation on himself and the pair up cohort, and he can get another action if he initiated combat, so pretty much Gale Force, or if he took action without entering the combat. So he essentially gets 3 actions, and you don't even have to use Gale Force on him. You could just run him with an AoE special and nuke really hard. And the extra actions are always going to be helpful on any kind of unit. If you take a look back at Brave Gulvik, she's still pretty amazing, and any kind of extra actions pretty much cements your place and iterates offense on the Gale Force teams, and a lot of times you're not going to be able to tank all of the units. So you can just try and player face them, and Felix is going to be one of those units. And then for his own combat, he's able to inflict -5 debuff to all stats of the enemies, and he also gets true damage based on 20% of his speed, even on the AoE specials, which is a huge thing because a lot of the times the true damage doesn't get added to the AoE specials on these nukes, but that is not the case with Felix. And then he also gets flat damage reduction based on 20% of his speed because he has to Omni-Tank being a sword infantry unit, and he also gets this flat damage reduction against the AoE specials, which is kind of rare, and then he gets even more flat damage reduction whenever an enemy triggers a special, and that is going to be 20% based on his speed. So he gets a lot of flat damage reduction, and remember that Excel also gives you even more flat damage reduction in the enemy phase when the enemy triggers a special. So he is going to be a pretty sturdy Gale Force and player phase unit. You could obviously try and use him as an Omni-Tank, but I don't think he's going to be staying relevant in that archetype, and he's going to be mainly functioning as a player phase Gale Force unit or with AoE specials. And because he already gets the extra actions, again, you don't have to run Gale Force, and if you have been watching me for a while, then you probably know how excited I am for him, mainly because of the fact that he is a player phase Gale Force unit. So definitely going to be getting him, and he's basically like Winter Edelgard, but better in few scenarios because he can AoE nuke a lot better, and he can also get the extra action even when he ends his action on a trap, and that is going to be a huge thing for Aetherite's offense for the consistency for your Gale Force teams. So I think that using him with AoE specials is the best way because he gets the Blazing Wind 1.5 multiplier, and then you also get the 20 true damage based on his speed added onto the AoE specials, and there's of course Breath of Life and things like that, but still a really solid player phase unit that is probably gonna get written off just as another sword infantry, but he is pretty unique. And he also breaks the sound barrier with 48 base speed. He's probably gonna be having a Spade Super Boon as well, and he has got 47 base attack, which is really high offensively. And then he comes with a new Slotsy skill in Endless Tempest. So this is like the mix of odd and even Tempest because at sort of every turn you get the permanent +1 movement. You gotta watch out for the stalled status though, but that is not gonna be a thing for Felix because he's fast. And then you get Omni +3, and this is basically gonna be functioning like a clash skill, and then you ignore any kind of visible buffs of the enemies in the combat. So a Dull effect is pretty strong to have on a Slotsy skill, and Felix is not gonna be doing anything too new, but like he is gonna be really solid at what he does in Gale Force teams, and he might seem like a bit of a hybrid unit, but again, like I said, you kind of need to focus with him and just use him where he's the best. And Omni-Tanking is something that he could do. He's not really all that frail, but over the time, we're just going to be getting more sword infantry units that are better than him. And even right now, I don't really think that he is that good of an Omni-Tank compared to the other options that we've got. But it's still worth noting that he can get a lot of flat damage reduction with his kit, so it's not like he is a free win. If you face him, you still have to kind of respect his bulk. And a big reason why he's really good in his Gale Forcing and player phase niche is because he has got the red color, which is going to be beating all of the green near saves, which are there to stop the Winter Edelguards. And if you're getting stopped by any kind of blue near save, then you could use your Winter Edelgard team. So you can just have that overlap and coverage, which is really good. And even as a casual player, if you just give him Emblem Celica, he can just warp and get the extractions and just kill the units for you. He's a really easy new unit that people can try and get that can give them a lot of value and just make them feel powerful with that player phase. There's obviously a drawback to where you don't really want to use an assist skill on him, so that he can get the extra action. But I think that would have been a bigger deal like pre-Emblem Celica. Now we have got Emblem Celica, just give that to him and then he can warp and get the extractions. So it's not really all that hard to just get him initiated on the enemy team. You don't really have to smite him like the other Gale Force initiators. And like I said, depending on how this works, he could even be immune to traps altogether by getting the extraction. So that definitely needs to be tested. And here we can see that Veronica doesn't even get her sweep effect against Felix. So he's not a complete pushover when it comes to tanking. So he can go there and tank the remaining units, which is always good for the Ether Raid's offense usage and even for just the casual usage. And then we have got Brave Bernie as a Blue Bow Cavalier. So this was a pretty safe pick that a lot of people also expected. And here she's going to be initiating on Emblem Ike, which is a bit deceptive. They're kind of making you think that she beats Emblem Ike all by herself, but that is probably not going to be the case. These trailers can be really deceptive at times. So she has got the Inexhaustible as the bow, which a lot of people probably wanted on Leonie, but to be fair, Bernie does have Crest of Indec, and Inexhaustible is that, Indec weapon, so that's probably the reason why she got that. And then she has got Kanto Distant Traveled Max 3, so this is going to be better than the Fortress, and you also get the dual phase Brave effect, and that's why it is an 8 might weapon, and you're going to be having that enemy phase potential without any kind of penalty. I mean, the fact that it has the lower might is a bit of a penalty in itself, but still, it's nothing like the other dual phase Brave weapons that would give you like penalty on your stats. And then if she initiates combat or if any kind of bonus is active on her, then she gets +5 to all of her stats, and she gets even more stats depending on 15% of her visible speed. So this is kind of like Felix. Again, she's going to be getting Omni +13 pretty easily, and she has got true damage based on 20% of her speed, which is really needed as a nuke and definitely helps her against Emblem Ike. And then she has got 50% damage reduction piercing, just like Felix, so she doesn't completely depend on Deadeye for the damage reduction piercing. And this is something they have been doing, like with Ledgering Claw's Weapon Refine. They're trying to make these bow units not really need Deadeye, and we can guess why, because she comes with a new inhittable special for bows and Curved Shot, and this is a 2 cooldown special, so this becomes 1 cooldown for Bernie or for any kind of modern bow unit, and this gives you the unpierceable 40% damage reduction like Armor Beacon or Armored Flow. So this is definitely going on the armor bow units. A lot of the bulky archers that are infantry don't really want this because they want to run Lagoo's Friend, like Shinon for example, and the low cooldown of this doesn't really work with it, and as it is, they're going to be having the full damage reduction piercing with Lagoo's Friend. So this is going to be useful on many of the flying archers like Legendary Claude, Brave Claude that want to get that unpierceable damage reduction. It's a bit awkward on Bernie though, because she is mainly going to be functioning in the enemy phase or the player phase, and if she's trying to live a hit, I don't think this kind of damage reduction is really going to be helping her against a competent nuke that has got Hardy Bearing. So it is there for her mainly for the nuking as a 1 cooldown special that she could trigger on her Brave hit, and she can trigger it twice in a single round of combat as we see in the FEH channel. And for killing some of the threats, you're definitely going to be needing 2 special triggers. And then she has got Attack Speed Prime, and yeah, that's definitely not convincing in the metagame where we have got Nurgle, Mythic Loki, and Tina. And then she's got Assassin Strike, which is going to be helping you get that pre-combat damage in the player phase, and it also gives you that true damage, so it can stack up nicely with her weapon for giving you better damage output. But in the future, if we get better Slotby skills, then she would definitely want to run that. And then she's got her exclusive Slotsy skill in Paranoia. So she can give herself the null follow-up status, and she can give the Paranoia status to herself and the allies in 2 spaces. She doesn't give out the null follow-up status to her allies, which is a bit odd. And she also deals that 1 HP friendly fire damage to herself and the allies that we know Bernie for. So that is going to be enabling a bunch of skills like Escape Route 4, Paranoia itself, and also is going to be enabling the usage of Wings of Mercy strats and Escape Route strats with Reciprocal Aid or Ardent Sacrifice. So that is always something that you can use her for, and now she can do it even better and also function in the combat much better. and at start of turn, if she's within 5 spaces of a foe, she's going to be reflecting back any kind of negative penalty status on herself to the closest foes and any kind of foe in 2 spaces of them, and she neutralizes or cleanses any kind of penalty effect on herself. So this is really unique because we have never seen this kind of reflection of the negative status effect. Now granted, she only does this for herself and not for her allies, so the scope of this is limited, but still as a nuke, this is something you're going to be able to easily make use of in something like Ether Raid's defense and not really care about the negative status effect, so it can be quite fun. And if your HP is at or below 99%, then you can get +5 attack and speed in the combat, and you also get Null Guard. So again, another unit with Null Guard, and Paranoia itself as a status is pretty amazing because it gives you the +5 attack. It does check for the HP, but that is going to be easy to do with the Friendly Fire 1 damage that Bernie can do, and it also gives Desperation in the player phase, which is a big thing, and also Vantage for the enemy phase usage. So now you can use something like Emblem Marth and consistently get that Vantage, but again, you'll have to watch out for any kind of Hardy Bearing Essence Drain nuke that is going to be stopping your plans, because they're going to be able to yoink all of your status effects, including Paranoia, and Hardy Bearing is going to be going past the Vantage. So I feel like Nurgle is going to be really annoying unit for any kind of Bernie team compositions, and the Vantage usage could be done in the Astro season where there is no Mythic Loki that you'll have to face. So again, she has to watch out for those units which kind of shut her visible status down, and Paranoia itself as a status is really strong because it just works for both player phase units and for enemy phase units. It gives you the Desperation without using Firestorm Dance, and it can also Vantage while still having any kind of other skills, which is amazing for flexibility. So Brave Bernie can enable a lot of different team compositions with the slotsy skill that she has got, and again, the trailers can be a bit deceptive at times. I'll need to test out if this is like a well-supported Emblem Ike or not. I don't think she kills like Breath of Life 4 well-supported Ike. So, I mean, not a lot of things do as it is, but here she's going to be killing him, and then Nurgle comes in, and Nurgle is going to be running Hardy Bearing. So, trust me, that is not something you're going to be doing. In the trailer, they try and make you believe that she's going to be preventing the buff stealing, but any kind of Essence Drain Hardy Bearing unit can be a problem. And then we've got Brave Alfonse for the last, and he's an Axe Cavalier just like his old man, and he has got a lot of new things and probably the best fodder out of this entire banner. So you can see his stats are beefed up, and he has such long skills that they had to make the font smaller, so that should just tell you everything. So he has got Majestic Glitnir as his preferred weapon, and it is going to be having Canto Distant Traveled +1. So this is going to be max 4 Canto, which is amazing with his extra movement, and he also has minus in special cooldown, making his preferred special into a 1 cooldown special that is going to be looping and easily triggering with the Time Pulse 4 built in this weapon. And he also gives himself the +6 defense and resistance buff and the extra movement. So if history has been any kind of teacher, we know that it's really hard for 4 movement Cavaliers to be bad. And even at their worst, like Legendary Sigurd, he's still a pretty strong unit because of that 4 movement and can still add to your team. And Brave Alfonse is going to be falling into the Summer Ephraim and Legendary Sigurd category because he's going to be really slow. So if you have any kind of Duo Thor or any kind of stalled status, then it is going to be just attracted to him, and then you're not going to be having the best of movement. There are ways of getting around it, but that is something you'll have to watch out for with his extra movement as per usual. And even though he has got 4 movement, he doesn't really have a Gale Force playstyle like Brave Seliph or Summer Ephraim, and he's going to be getting +14 defense and resistance and inflicts -14 defense and resistance on the foe, depending on if he initiated combat or if there's an ally in 3 rows or 3 columns, and depending on the number of allies that are in that range, multiplied by 3 and then added by 5, he's going to be getting that in the combat. And then he has got true damage based on 10% of his defense. Usually the true damage here is a lot greater, but with the low thresholds of his true damage and flat damage reduction, you can already try and tell that they're trying to balance him in their own weird way. So this kind of true damage is going to be helping, and then he also gets flat damage reduction based on 10% of his defense. So it is going to be helping him stack up that unpierceable damage reduction, and then whenever his special triggers, he's going to be having the full damage reduction piercing. So he's going to be wanting to avoid the Hush Spectrum effect, and I don't think he's going to be getting scaled that much on his own because his resistance is really high and he can stack up a lot of stats. But that Hush Spectrum and Unconditional Scowl is something you'll have to watch out for him, and you obviously don't want him to get Pulse Smoked, and he can just loop his special because of having the full Time Pulse 4 built in this weapon. For some reason they had to split it, and then he has got his preferred special in Makings of a King. So this is a 1 cooldown special that he's going to be looping. So this special gives you 30% of unit's defense and the defense from Great Talent when the special triggers. And Great Talent is going to be one of the new mechanics that we've got. But before that, he has got some unpierceable damage reduction, and this is going to be based on percentage of 40 subtracted with the current special cooldown count value multiplied by 10. So because he's always going to be having his special pre-charged, he's going to be having 40% damage reduction, which is amazing when it's unpierceable like this in the special. And I say unpierceable because they don't really have any kind of text that says that this is pierceable damage reduction like Vital Astra. So it is assumed that this is unpierceable damage reduction, and he can stack a lot of it with his kit and with his weapon. And then we have got Great Talent, the main reason why he stands out as a support. So this is not a status effect. You can see in the Fate channel that they showed Great Talent as the visible stats and not as a status, so this cannot really get stolen by Nurgle, and this is going to be building up incrementally as the turns go by. So the visible stats are going to be useful for any kind of unit, and you can definitely stall a couple of turns or even trigger his specials easily and then stack up more Great Talent. So you're basically going to be getting +2 Great Talent on Alfonse at sort of every turn. And for the allies, this is +1. And after he triggers his special, +4 Great Talent is going to be stacked up. And for the allies, it is going to be +2. And the max cap of Great Talent is +20 for Alfonse and +10 for his allies. Now, they do say that the stat reaching the limit of 99, and 99 is basically the cap of the skill, but for Alfonse and his Great Talent, this is capped at +20. So this is kind of a slippery slope because in the future, they could release more units that can give you more Great Talent, stats, essentially, and that is what is going to be helping you. Now, realistically, you're not always going to be having the capped stats because for that, you need to trigger a lot of specials and, a couple of turns have to be passed. So it is not always going to be at the max, but still having any kind of extra stats which are not susceptible to any kind of enemy's effect yet is pretty amazing. And even though he's going to be functioning as a really solid Cavalier, he also gives good support. So we just had Hathran with Stronghold, and not even a month has passed and they've got Fortifications as a better slotty skill, which a lot of tanks would want. So this is going to be giving you -5 attack as the penalty and gives you +7 visible defense and resistance. And if the unit is on a space where the Divine Vein effect is active, then you get distant counter or close counter. So this is pretty good as it is for any kind of tanking unit, just with that distant counter that you can get. And then weirdly, in the player phase, you're going to be getting +6 defense and resistance and 10 flat damage reduction when the enemy triggers the special. So this part is completely player phase and it's not going to be triggering in the enemy phase. And then if the unit has entered the combat in the current turn, after the unit acts, you're going to be setting up Divine Vein Stone Terrain in the space that you're standing on and also in 2 spaces of the unit. So this is going to be a skill that Emblem Ike could run because now he doesn't need Goto, Fallen Lumera, or Mythic Lumera for the AoE damage reduction support. So he's able to be self-sufficient, and many of the tanks can try and run this and still get the distant counter effect, unlike Emblem Ike, who already has that in his weapon. And this also gives you something for the player phase, so even on a Cavalier like Alfonse, you're going to be able to get the mileage out of it, and it does make him pretty bulky. Then he has got Reopening as another slot B skill, and it's kind of like a mini Lagu's friend, which is good for the cavalry units, but it's not really all that desirable on the infantry tanks. So this is going to be inflicting -5 attack debuff on the foe, and it also inflicts the guard effect. And nowadays guard effect doesn't really mean much because we have got so much null guard nowadays. I mean, on this banner, just look at it, we have got so much null guard. And then you get true damage based on X% of your defense, and also flat damage reduction based on X% of your defense. And the X is 10% of your defense if you have any kind of brave effect or if you can make a follow-up attack. And if you don't, then it is going to be treated as 20, and that's why Brave Alfonse doesn't really have a guaranteed follow-up attack, because he wants to get the 20% flat damage reduction and also the true damage based on his defense. So he's going to be able to easily get that, but it's not the most realistic demand for a lot of the other units that are not him. And he has got Breath of Life 4, which is insane slotsy skill, giving you that healing and giving you a way of combating the pre-combat damage, the AoE specials and everything. And you can already set up the stone terrain with his sloty skill. So he has a lot of AoE protection in a way right from his kit, and this makes him the best fodder unit out of this banner because Breath of Life 4 in itself is amazing, and on any kind of tank, they're going to be lacking fortifications as a slotty skill for being self-sufficient and setting up the stone terrain, and also getting the distant counter effect if they don't already have it. Brave Alfonse also has so much defense that he's going to be getting a ton of healing out of Breath of Life 4, which also scales off the healing, and he can also give this as a support, keep in mind, to the other units, as long as they are not Lucia and they have the feud effect on themselves. So Brave Alfonse is a really bulky cavalier, and the only thing he's kind of missing as a tank is null counter disrupt. If he had that, he would have been an insanely good Omni tank, and even now he's a pretty good Omni tank. Maybe in the future we get some kind of way of outsourcing null counter disrupt, so then he could be the ultimate Omni tank. But yeah, he has got a lot of unpierceable damage reduction, and he has got a threat range of a 4 movement cavalier, which is not nothing. He's gonna be just hitting so hard with his special that he can loop with his weapon, and he can tank a lot of foes with the unpierceable damage reduction that he has got with his special and also with his weapon and his slot B skill and everything. So it just makes him a really annoying unit to go up against. And as we see, he's really tanky, even shrugging off the AoE special of Fallen Ursula, which is not easy. Even Emblem Ike could kind of struggle at times without Breath of Life 4, even if he has got like the stone terrain. And here Alfonse just has so much visible resistance and stats on top of it with a great talent that it is going to be making it easier for him. So if I had to pick which unit is the best, I don't really have the hands-on experience yet, but from the impressions, I'm leaning towards Brave Alfonse and Brave Female Robin. I definitely feel like the best unit is either two of them. And even though Felix and Bernie I don't think are the best units, they are still pretty amazing, and they can age well because of their unique mechanics. And Felix can always be an amazing heal first initiator, which I'm going to be using him for. And this banner is going to be available tomorrow, and we're going to be having 4 sparks, so you can guaranteed get these units and also get their fodder if you're trying to chain any of that with the rearmed and attuned units. And then we have got Pannette as the Grand Tour Battle unit. So last year we got CYL8, who aged pretty well actually, being a trainee BST unit. And Pannette here is going to be the highest scoring arena unit as of yet. So she has got really high attack, and she does have workable speed. It's not that low, and she also has some kind of true damage in her weapon that scales off her lost HP, so probably Wrath of some kind. So she can hit pretty hard because of that. So a lot of people are going to be investing in her as their arena merge project. And she does have much better combat than a lot of the other free-to-play units because she has -1 special cooldown to begin with, which not a lot of them can say. And her skills are not really the greatest with Fire Boost in 2024, but Panic Smoke can still be useful. And we're also going to be getting the Dragon Flower update, so now your Gen 1 infantry units can have 35 infantry Dragon Flowers, which is insane. And they're going to be giving 1,000 of each Dragon Flowers extra in the Forging Bonds, which is definitely good, and we all need more infantry Dragon Flowers. So that is going to be my Choose Your Legends coverage. I'm going to be using these units for a couple of days, and then I'm going to be making my banner review. So look forward to that. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for the constant support. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Robin having 11 sword. So that's it, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.